Welcome to the Genius Talk podcast. I'm your host Atul Raj from the bestemailmarketer.com, and today we have Felix Velarde from the felixvelarde.com with us. Felix, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Atul. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good.
Awesome, brother. So, for our listeners who don't know you, can you tell them who you are and what you do?
Sure. So probably worth giving a tiny insight into my background. I started one of the first web design agencies in the world about 31 years ago, Hyper Interactive. And then I had a string of agencies, and one of my agencies became the digital arm of Low Worldwide. And I had a CRM consulting firm and so on. And I ended that part of my career with an agency group called the Conversation Group, and we had 12 agencies in that. Then about 11 years ago, I sold everything, decided to go to Burning Man and have 9 months of partying. So I went to Burning Man and I had 9 months of partying, which was great fun. And then I started the 2Y3X program, which is the world's leading accelerator for marketing agencies. And it's a structured 2-year program that triples the revenue of the agencies in the program. And it creates succession teams so that founders can either expand really fast or they can expand fast and sell. And so that's, I guess, the main thing that I'm known for. I have a book, Scale at Speed, which is the leading book on how to scale service businesses. That's published by Hachette. That's been out for about 4 years. I think it's in Chinese and everything. And then I mentor companies and I help companies scale if they don't want to go into the program. And I help companies companies that want to buy other agencies. So groups and roll-ups. I act as a board advisor and so I'm very lucky. And I have a tech startup and I have a book and, it's cool.
Okay, awesome. So, what type of client do you enjoy working the most?
All of my clients, I work really, really well with people who are progressive, who believe that if you empower people, you get better results. I don't work very well with kind of command and control, top down, everything's my way. I don't get on with those people very well. But I love people who understand that if they really want to scale their business, then they have to empower their people. And so I help them do that. I'm very values driven. So I fire people who lie to me, for example. But I like progressive people who are ambitious and creative and smart, which is probably everybody who's listening to this, right? So hello, everybody. You're my next client.
Yes, of course. So, what inspired you to write your book, Scale at Speed?
Well, I'd been chaired probably about a dozen agencies by that point. And I had the 2Y3X program, and 2Y3X, so you go to 2Y3X.com if you want to find out about it. But the 2Y3X program was by that point very reliable. Almost everybody who came into the program either doubled their revenue or tripled their revenue. And some of them sold for a very, it made quite a few millionaires in its early days. It still does, in fact, more so now. But I had this program and I was starting to get very well known in the UK and US industries. I got invited to do a podcast by somebody called Lucy Mann. And she invited me onto this podcast called Small Spark Theory, which is a brilliant podcast about new business and how to generate sales. And she asked me about what I was doing with 2Y3X. And at the end of it, she said, you should write a book. I sort of said, ha, 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 yes, of course. And then about a week later, I got an email from an agent who said, I was listening to the podcast and I agree, you should write a book. So it wasn't my idea at all. And then it took about 3 years for me to write it. And then very happily, the agent then took the manuscript. And 7 days after she received the manuscript, Hachette bought the book. So I was very lucky.
Okay, so I'm curious. Okay, so you said there are a few agencies who sold their companies. Okay, agency, right? So at what time does it make sense to sell an agency?
When you're going to get right, when do you want to sell an agency? You want to sell an agency when you're not enjoying it anymore, when selling it will give you enough money to do what you will enjoy or what you want to do, and when you think it's time. And I think one of the problems with most people who try and sell their agency is that they think they have something of value. And then they go to the market and they go to the brokers and they say, I want to sell my agency. I've heard you can get a multiple of 6 times profit. for your agency, and my profit is £250,000 or $250,000, and I can sell that for $1.5 million, and I can retire, right?
Uh,
It may be 10 times that, but whatever number they have in their head, usually they go to the broker, and the broker says, yeah, no, your agency isn't worth that much.
Okay.
Your agency is only worth 3 times because it's small. You haven't got a succession team. Your people are reliant on you. You're doing all of the sales. So you're not selling an agency. You're selling you with a machine behind you. And so you're not worth as much as you want it to be. So that's when people come to me, is because they say, okay, well, I want to get this amount, whatever it is, 1.5 million or 15 million. How do I get there? And then, and
Yeah.
that's where the program comes up.
Okay, so I guess the agency should be productized, right? If the owner want to sell the agency in the future.
Not necessarily. It can be a really good consulting firm. You can sell value, not products. I'd say probably 60% of the agencies that I work with are consulting firms, or they're agencies that deliver very bespoke work. So not productized, but they, in order to be ready to sell, they have to work without the owner. Because when the owner sells, the seller's going to sell, right? And the buyer doesn't want to buy something that is going to fall to bits because the owner's left, and the founder owns the client relationships. The team only works well because the owner is in charge, and that's a business that is extremely difficult to sell. A business that's extremely easy to sell is where there's a team running the agency. The team is delivering the value to the clients, and the owner is just doing strategic stuff. Because the second that the owner can walk away, the second that the owner can say, do you know what? I'm not in the weeds anymore. If there's a crisis, the team can get it. When the owner can say that, then they've got a really good sellable business.
Yeah, that makes sense. You just inspired me to sell an agency.
Well, will it give you as much money as you want it to? Or could it give you more if you really want more? And how much is enough? How many breakfasts can you have in the morning?
Yeah. So can you share a recent case study of any of your clients?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a great example. It's not very recent, but it's a lovely example. There's an agency in the UK called RawNet, and the founder was tired and stressed and wasn't enjoying running his agency, and it had flatlined. It got to, I think, 3 million in revenue, but it wasn't going anywhere. It kept hitting the same 3 million in revenue. It was flatlined, and he was getting more and more frustrated and more stressed out. And so he started just doing 2Y3X, and I started working with him, and we assembled a team of superstars from inside the business. I mean, the best. There was somebody who was a junior account manager, and there was somebody who was a developer, and there was somebody who's a new business guy. And we brought this team, I think there's 6 or 7 people together, and we co-created a vision for what the agency could be like in 3 years' time. And then we reverse engineered the vision. We said, what has to be true for this vision to be true? If you want 99% client satisfaction, what do you have to do? What has to be true for you to be able to do that? Right. And so we created this plan of action, which started with measuring your current client satisfaction and listening to it, and then fixing the stuff that they didn't like. Anyway, we spent 2 years working together. By about 6 months in, Adam, who founded RawNet, had a smile on his face for the first time. The team was electric because they were being trusted for the first time, and they were being taught how to run an agency. And so after 2 years, we sold this agency for a multiple of 8.5 times EBITDA, which is twice as much as the average market price. So everybody was delightedly happy, really happy. That junior account manager who we brought onto the team, she is now the managing director of the agency, and she's brilliant. Anyway, so that's one. I'll give you another one, which is recent. We had a guy who had an agency in the States, in Cincinnati, and he was selling, all of his clients were law firms. So he was selling marketing to law firms. And he'd built this agency to, 2 million revenue. And again, it had got stuck at 2 million. He couldn't get it beyond 2 million. So we met and we had this conversation. And he joined 2Y3X. Anyway, fast forward 18 months later, his team's running the business. They fixed all of the problems in the business. They're starting to scale, and their biggest competitor comes to them and says, we want to buy you. We're going to buy you for cash. You can leave in 6 weeks. And so they handed him, I'm not going to say how much, they made him an extremely happy man. He left the agency. He then decided to use some of the cash to buy another agency. And then he joined 2Y3X as one of our program leads. So he's now one of the consultants that delivers 2Y3X to other agencies, which is brilliant because it's flattering and it's lovely, but it just proves that there's a circle of life and giving back here once you've made your money. And I really like that. Mark is a lovely, lovely man.
Okay, so what do you think? What are the most common mistake that are stopping agency from scaling?
Right. The biggest problem, the biggest thing that stops every agency from scaling, or most agencies from scaling, is the founder, the leader, the CEO, is the bottleneck. And the problem, if you are the founder of your agency, every decision comes out of your head, right? Your team comes to you and says, boss, we've got this problem. What should we do about it? And you're the boss and you say, well, I think you should do this. And so the team goes off and they do that, right? Everything suddenly becomes your problem, not their problem. And even when you've learned SMART and all of the rest of the good delegation tools, and you delegate well to somebody, right? You say, right, Sally, I've got this thing. I want you to deliver it. Go off and deliver it. You have my complete support and complete trust, right? Come back when it's finished. You've delegated this thing. The problem is it came out of your head. And when Sally comes to you and says, which way should I go? This way, that way, or the other way? And you say, well, what do you think? She is still delivering your plan. It's not her plan. So you're still stuck at the top. You're still sitting on the spike on the pointy bit of your agency, and you are the bandwidth. Your bandwidth is the problem for the agency. It can't scale when every decision comes from you or has to come back to you. So if you can, and then that's why most founders complain, well, I'm always being dragged back in the weeds. I hate being in the weeds. I hate it that every time there's a crisis, I have to step in. Every time the client wants to leave, I've got to, every time the planning director wants to quit, it's always me. And so that becomes more and more stressful. And so that bandwidth problem gets even worse, right? And there's a fantastic book called Scarcity by Eldar Shafir, and I can't remember his first name, Mullainathan, I think is his surname. And their book Scarcity is about the bandwidth tax that happens when you've got crisis after crisis coming to you. And most founders, the buck stops with them. The reason, the way that I work and the reason that 2Y3X works so well is because we take the decision-making level down from there to a level where you've got 6 people or 5 people. And so you have 5 or 6 times the bandwidth to deal with all the crises. And the founder sits on the top saying, okay, well, now I'm free. I'm not being brought back into the weeds all the time. What can I do with that freedom? And so they can go and they can say, well, I think there's an opportunity for AI in the market. Or I think that we should be opening up in New York. Or perhaps we should buy 2 other agencies and a AAA headcount. That's what happens. Those kind of decisions get to happen when it's not all on you as the founder.
So what personality trait would you attribute majority of your success to?
God knows.
If you want, you can say Juju.
I think I started out as an anti-racism campaigner, right? My politics are very kind of progressive, and that morphed into, these days you wouldn't say anti-racism, you'd say I'm a pro-diversity campaigner. And what that means is, in real terms for me, is I want to give everybody the chance to shine. And so 2Y3X is about gathering the most talented people in the business, getting them together and giving them the chance to shine. Because if you get 5 or 6 people shining in a business, that's even better than one person, the founder, shining in the business.
Exactly.
So I guess I make it work because I'm quite persuasive. And because I'm very good, because I've had 6 agencies of my own, and I've had 2 agency groups, and I've bought a bunch of agencies, and I've sold or helped sell 17 agencies now. I've got quite a lot of authority and credibility. So founders can come to me and ask my advice, and they'll listen to it. And also because I'm 3 times more expensive than anybody else, they'll write everything down and then they'll act on it, right? But that allows me then to give them the confidence that I've got this and that I can manage the process of distributing the load so that it's not all on them. And that makes it actually easy to make it successful. So it's never me actually driving the success here. It's always this team of superstars in the business driving the success and the founder liberating them to do so. So it takes quite a brave founder, brave CEO to say, do you know what? If I could empower my people, I could be 6 times more successful. That's a brave kind of leader. And those are the kinds of people that I work best with.
Yeah, exactly. Because if the founder makes all the decision himself, like it will not going to scale because there are limited brain capacity to make decision.
And most of us think we're smarter than we are, right?
Yeah.
Certainly me. I sit there. I've got 9 projects on my list at the moment. Of different things that I'm supposed to be doing. I've got 2 books that I'm supposed to be finishing. I've got 2 courses I'm supposed to be finishing. I've got all of these things, right? And because I'm smart, I should be able to do all of this stuff. I could delegate really well. No way. I get one good thing done every day at best.
Yeah. Okay, so looking back to when you started, what's the one lesson you will tell yourself if you have to restart today?
Ooh, one lesson. I've got thousands of things that tell me to do. Be more humble. Be more humble.
Get get French cut before.
Well, it's like, I think ego is the thing that powers most founders, right? That's self-belief, but you have to temper it with reality and not be cocky. And I think when I was certainly in my early career, I made lots of enemies by just telling everybody that they were wrong. I should have just kept quiet and got on with being right, and it would have been much more pleasant for everybody, I think.
Okay.
What else would I say? Interesting question. I was just about to say, I'd say don't party as much, but actually, I loved it. I had a ball. So I'd say, yeah, definitely carry on partying. Life's got to be fun, otherwise it's no fun.
Okay. So is there anything else that you would like to share?
No, I think I've said quite a bit. I think if you're listening to this and you're an agency founder, then be brave. I think it takes bravery to empower your people and to trust your people, and they will get it wrong. They don't have your experience or your self-confidence. They will get it wrong, but allow people to get it wrong. It's okay. If you empower people and you've got 10 people in your company and one person screws something up, that's 10% that you can fix that. If you screw something up, there's 100%. You can't really fix that.
Yeah,
Except you'll
exactly.
probably start again and have another business. Just have faith in your people, I think, and be as inclusive as you possibly can be. I think, the talent that we ignore because it's a developer in the basement or because they don't quite speak as good English or whatever language, make time for those people because that's where the real talent is. It's not in the obvious people.
By the way, I have one quick thought. Not say it's dated or not, but what do you have to say about being perfectionist?
I am a perfectionist. I demand perfectionism from the people around me. I don't always get it. I've learned how to tolerate not getting it, but I ask for it. But I think that you do have to forgive yourself. There's quite a lot of research that says getting it done at 60% quality gets it done. And if you look at, right, here's a good example. Look at eBay.com, right? eBay is a horrifically badly designed website, right? No designer has looked at that website. No designer has been allowed anywhere near it. It's appalling. All the font sizes are too small. All of there's too much clutter on the screen. It's crap, right? The user experience is appallingly bad, right? But they don't seem to be suffering, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be perfect all the time. So I think figure out which bits of perfection you really need because you
Yeah.
can't have it all. In fact, sorry, just want to add to that, if I may. If you are a perfectionist, focus your perfectionism on the things that will make you happiest. The things that don't make you happy, don't worry about being perfect. But if your kids make you happy, be a perfectionist in the care that you give your kids, right? If partying in the right way makes you happy, be a perfectionist about the parties and the people that you relate to. Don't worry about the little stuff.
That was my personal question. Okay, for the agency owners who want to contact you, okay, where can they reach out?
Sure. So If you go to 2y3x.com, that's 2y3x.com, you can find the consulting, the agency accelerator. If you go to linkedin.com/in/agency chair, that's me. And if you go to felixvelarde.com, so my name.com, you'll find my consulting stuff. But yeah, I mean, LinkedIn's easiest. If you put in linkedin.com/in/agency chair, that's my profile. Feel free to connect. I answer questions all day, every day from people who write in because they've read the book or they're curious or they've got a question about their agency. I'm very open to being contacted. Unless you're trying to sell me something. If you're trying to sell me something, find somebody else.
Okay, Felix, thank you so much for spending some time with us. It was really great chatting with you.
Pleasure. Great questions. Thanks, Atul.
Thank you, brother.